All of my friends say, girl, you better take care. Cause that man is trouble, you best beware. And though deep down, I know I might be headed for teardrops. Now that you got me started, I just can't stop. No, no. Cause I love you, baby. I can't let you go, baby. I gotta tell you that I want.
Welcome back. I think I'm just missing the light. It is 10 to 9 on a Thursday evening. I'm flying back to Toronto first thing tomorrow morning. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. So if you saw my video from probably a month or two ago now about my minimalist everyday camera bag, as I sort of said in that video, that's kind of my travel bag as well. And as it happens in this instance, it's exactly what I took with me around Europe for 2 weeks. It's the same stuff that I would carry day to day, with the exception of just a couple of extra chargers and a GoPro. And I was going to go into the nitty gritty of kind of like what lenses I use for what and how I film my videos and behind the scenes kind of thing. And then I realized that just no one wants to see another one of those, and it would take too long for me to make as well. So I figured a better way to do this would be to phase this as more of a discussion between me and you. And I want that discussion to be more about kind of my overall principles and my overall approach to making videos. And I'm going to be overlaying that with shots that I've taken over the last couple of weeks and photos that I've taken. And I'm going to be labeling what I've taken those with. So it's just kind of showing you how I use my gear rather than me just telling you. I don't really feel like there's a whole lot of point in me kind of describing that process. So I think from my perspective, it's, you know, when I'm filming something, it's usually good to have it's a purpose, you know. You're filming a video about X, and you find a way to make a story that kind of ties in with that. And talking about story, to me, there's like 3 levels of kind of filmmaking, cinematography, whatever you want to call it, making videos. You know, there's at the lowest level, there's just like what looks cool, and how do I make something that looks cool. You know, it's pretty common that's what a lot of people do on YouTube, on TikTok, on Reels, on every other fucking platform that exists now. But there's not really any meaning behind it. There's not really a purpose behind it other than something that looks cool. And then the next level up, there's kind of like the story. There's what story are you trying to tell? You know, and that's a big thing that's been pushed by, you know, every good filmmaker ever. And I think story is a fantastic way to think about it. You know, but I think there's another level, there's another sort of echelon above that at the end of the day, and it's why are you telling that story? And everything in life starts with a why, but filmmaking especially. And I think at the root of that is, what is the emotion, what is the feeling that you're trying to convey? What are you trying to get out of the person watching it? What are you trying to evoke in them? And that really is kind of the heart of filmmaking. At the start of this video, I was trying to create something happy, something joyful, something to capture the essence of the scene that I was in, because that's how I felt in Copenhagen. The kind of the atmosphere, the vibe, the people being happy, the colorful walls, the sunshine, and the people playing music and all sorts of things. Like, the city's alive. It's a happy place. There's people on their boats in the canal. You know, that's the emotion I wanted to capture, and that's what I wanted to portray to you, and that's why I filmed it in that way. Okay, my knees are hurting, so I gotta move. Oh, fuck. So going back to the Copenhagen example, you know, my philosophy for shooting that was I want this happy-go-lucky vibe. This I want to capture the vibe and the feeling of being in Copenhagen. And to me, that starts with gear selection. You know, I wanted something that felt natural, that felt easy. Didn't feel like you had to really focus to be able to understand what's going on. You didn't have to kind of adjust your eyes, and that meant I didn't want to shoot with like long telephoto lenses. I didn't want to shoot like ultra wide, and that's why I picked the 35mm for a lot of the shots. And of course, using the drone as a 24mm equivalent, I think. I'm not actually, I haven't got a clue. But I wanted to use those kind of wide angle, natural looking, depth of field, those types of things that kind of that replicate the natural look that you see when you're looking at the world. And I just felt like the 35mm, everyone knows that it's a great street photography lens for this reason, is because it just feels natural. And then tying in with that was the frame rate. So I actually started by shooting everything in high frame rate. We all know it's a huge thing with YouTubers. It was a huge craze in 2018, 2019, and we all know who caused that. And for good reason, it was pretty cool, but it had a very distinct kind of feeling and a distinct vibe to it. It's very, I don't know how to describe it, but I'll show you what I mean.
I can't let you go, baby. I just wanna tell you that. No.
You see, that doesn't really work, does it? Because everything's slowed down. It doesn't capture kind of the liveliness of the place, and that's why I shot everything in 24p. And that goes for the drone footage as well. I originally shot at 60p and slowed it down, and you would think that would be okay, but it just didn't. It didn't have the same feeling. It didn't have the same energy that I was going for. So your gear and your frame rate, although these are things that typically are considered to be quite technical and just, something that you have to choose, to me, they make a really big difference to the whole feeling of the video. And of course, I had like the cheeky kind of center angle. That was just like a little motif, a little kind of thing that I felt looked cool and I kind of wanted to try. But that was more of a stylistic choice that fitted that theme and that feeling more so than a prerequisite. The other thing that I use gear-wise actually is this variable ND mist filter. This is the one from KNF, and I felt like that kind of added that slightly filmic look, that kind of natural look again. So that combined with the color grade and then with the music on top and the timing of the edit, just kind of got across the feeling that I was going for. That's not to say that shooting in 35mm, shooting at 24p is going to get you that feeling every time. It's just things that add to it, and you can still use those same techniques to achieve a different feeling altogether. For example, last week when I was in France, I was up on this epic mountain in Cossol, south of France. The clouds were rolling in and it just looked insane. So I managed to get these like really epic drone shots of the top. So let's just cut those together now and kind of add some epic music, and you'll see how you can get a completely different vibe. And these were shot at 30p and just slowed down to 24. And that I filmed almost entirely with the drone, in addition to kind of a really wide angle time lapse, which to me just that was the way to capture the epicness of that scene, of that moment. The feeling of being on the top of that mountain was to capture the view from the perspective of being on the top of that mountain, flying that drone slowly around it and seeing the whole view, everything come into view, the mountains in the distance, the haze, the fog, the clouds rolling in. That was the way to capture that moment, in my opinion. A telephoto didn't make sense. Showing someone at the top of the cliff with some blur, that didn't make sense in that situation. And that's how I think gear choice really sort of factors in again to that feeling you're trying to capture. And then on the flip side to that, I was up at the farm just a few days ago, actually, here in England. So I switched to the long lens. I put my camera on my tripod, although I only have my GorillaPod with me, so they're all quite low to the ground. But in doing so, you could really feel and you could really see the motion from the wind. You could see that cold breeze. You could feel the stillness in the air. So I hope those few examples give you an idea of how I use the gear that I talked about in that last video, and how I kind of vary my lens choices and my kind of filter choices and other things, and my frame rate, which, you know, is part of the gear. It's different gear itself, but how I kind of tweak those things to fit the what I'm shooting, really. So how does this all tie into the gear that you should be carrying in your bag? Well, that really goes back to what is it that you're filming, and what's the type of content, what's the type of feeling that you're trying to portray. I think it always comes back to that at the end of the day. I like the 20mm because it's so versatile, but also it gives the feeling that I really enjoy, which is that close-up, that intimate feeling. It's got a good depth of field on it. It's got everything that I need. It just makes you feel like you're right there. And I love this for everything now. For video, for portraits, for landscapes. It just gives you that really natural perspective that I really appreciate. And that's kind of a similar reason why I occasionally carry the 35. It's not a staple in my kit. It's not there every single time like the 20mm, but it is there quite frequently, especially when I'm doing street photography. Because to me, and again, it gives that kind of natural perspective, that natural depth of field, although it's not quite as wide as you would like. And then of course the telephoto is something that is always really useful to have. It's amazing for detail shots, it's amazing for portraits, it's amazing for all sorts of things really. I can go on, time lapses and even landscape. So you can get some amazing landscape shots with the telephoto, especially if you have mountain peaks or amazing kind of trees sticking out in the horizon, whatever it is where you have depth. It's just such a versatile lens that has so many different applications to different types of videos and photos that it's just great to always have there. So that's why I carried those lenses. But if you're someone that maybe likes to shoot only details, you know, maybe you only shoot indoors, in which case then you're probably going to be carrying something like a 50mm. Or maybe you shoot wildlife, in which case you're going to want a 150 to 500 or 150 to 600 or 200 to 600 or something in that kind of range. And that again is tailored to what it is you're looking for. You know, at the end of the day, like to me, the purpose of art in general is to evoke emotion. And I see filmmaking, I see cinematography, movie making, YouTube making, whatever the hell you call it, as a form of art, albeit I wouldn't call myself an artist. Therefore, the question to me is always, what emotion am I trying to evoke?